Hello, my name is Oscar. I study at the Pan American University of Puerto in the Faculty of Education and Humanities, School of Modern Languages. In today's video, I'm going to talk about language levels. The, the language levels is a result of or a measurement found in the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages, or CEFR. So this Common European Framework of Reference for Languages provides a comprehensive and clear guide to be used as a basis to develop teaching programs and learning materials in regards to learning a language. But it is also used as a measurement of a person's proficiency at a particular language. So for example, if applied to English, we have 7 levels that we can find within the Common European Framework of Reference for Languages. Starting with level 1, which is a 0, and that is a beginner level. So at level 1, a person can understand and speak the language, let's say English for example, to a very limited extent, meaning knowing a few words, knowing the meaning of a few words and the pronunciation of some words, but as I mentioned, in a very basic way, in both understanding and speaking. Alright, so moving on to level 2, we have level A1, which is elementary. So in this case, the ability to understand very basic daily situations is present, but often if the interlocutor is speaking in a very slow and clear manner, because at this point the necessary skills, the necessary listening skills needed to understand native accents, for example, that can sometimes be difficult as a person that lives outside of that culture, especially at that level, are simply not present, those listening skills, just yet. But as I said, if a person, a interlocutor, is speaking in a slow way and a very clear way, it is possible to understand and also use simple expressions. At this stage, the important thing is to develop both those listening skills and expanding on the vocabulary. In my opinion, in regards to vocabulary, often one point that people often forget is that it is critical to handle a wide and large vocabulary, a large pool of words within your own native language, and this will very positively impact your journey into learning a different language and expanding your vocabulary in that language, especially in languages that are closely related. But I digress. Let's continue with the next level, which is level 3, or A2, pre-intermediate. So in this case, you can make yourself understood with simple messages in everyday context. Again, those advanced listening skills are not developed yet, but the the capacity and overall, let's say, mastery, quote unquote mastery of basic phrases and expressions, mainly in the present time, or the present form of the verbs. The typical expressions, in other words, the typical expressions that tourists learn when they are going to travel. So very basic things such as asking for directions, telling someone where you're staying at, asking for the time, or anything like that. Those are things that at that level a person will handle and will do very well, but it is still far away from being able to hold a fluent conversation entirely in that language. So moving on, we have level 4, which is B1 intermediate. So at this stage, you are able to speak the language and make yourself understood in a more coherent and confidently way on the topics that you are most familiar with. So again, in this case, we're going to see that you have a mastery of, or a proficiency at with the topics that you usually use in your daily life. But let's remember that language includes technical language of areas of knowledge that you may not be acquainted with, such as, for example, astrophysics or chemistry, and so on and so forth, right? So at that point, in intermediate, you can have a fluent and consistent conversation with the topics that you can handle and that are familiar to you. And the important thing at this level is to improve the grammar skills and continuing that expansion of the vocabulary. Okay, so next up we have level 5, which is B2 upper intermediate. So B2 signals a stage where a person can use the language effectively and express ideas in a precise way. At this point, you can also develop oral fluency by discussing or debating, and your vocabulary is wide enough for you to have a deep conversation, not only surface level exchanges, such as the one that I was referencing a couple of levels ago, such as asking for directions. And so in this case, the person is able to sustain long conversations and going in depth on those conversations. Okay, so almost finishing, we have level 6, which is C1 advanced. So C1 encompasses that threshold where the person now can have conversations within topics. Now, as I was referencing before, now the person is able to talk in a clear, consistent, and deep manner in a variety of subjects, not only the ones that they are familiar with. So the vocabulary is much deeper at this stage, and both listening skills, meaning the ability to understand one person even if they have an accent, for example, or if they are not speaking slowly but in the way that they will typically do in their everyday lives, is a clear marker of level C1 advanced stage, right, or level. The ability to understand, but also to speak in a way that is fluent and without needing preparation or interruptions to look up maybe words that you could be missing, because you have the vocabulary to sustain that exchange. Okay, and finally we have level 7, which is the highest level within this framework, which is C2, called native. In this case, the person can use the language with ease and with fluency when confronted with complex subjects, as I was mentioning before, things that are outside of your day-to-day surface conversation, philosophy, science, or anything that is technical, or anything that transcends that day-to-day typical exchange between persons. So in this case, one of the things that definitely characterize this level is the fluency, as I mentioned, and the quality of the pronunciation. That hence the name native. So as foreigners or any person learning a new language will possibly always have a level of accent, but at this level you are able to make yourself understood very easily to the natives of the language that you are learning, and you are also able to understand them even if they have accents or different way of speaking that you normally don't interact with when you're learning. I mean by accents that are typically not portrayed in learning materials, and such as videos and so on and so forth. So finally, at this stage, the important thing is to improve your the understanding of the nuances of language, common expressions, idioms, and also continue the ever expanding process of deepening your vocabulary. At this stage, it is great to read in the language that you are learning, and also to hold conversations with natives, to practice everything, both from listening skills to fluency to vocabulary and to pronunciation. So those are the 7 levels, the 7 language levels according to the Common European Framework of Reference for languages, or CEFR, and that is all that I had to share with you for today's video. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope I will see you on the next one. Goodbye for now.